Hello, my name is Alejandro Peraza. I'm a student of the Master Degree in Criminology and Criminal Public Policy. This time I'm going to talk about Maria's Arson case. So, the diagnostic and statistical manner of mental disorders, this SM5, and the classification of diseases and mortality and morbidity statistics, CIE11, mentioned that bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features can severely harm judgment and the perception of reality during manic episodes. Psychotic behavior often involves hallucinations and disillusional beliefs, which compromise volitional control, meaning that in our case, Maria had a low capacity to understand her actions, most of all, the wrongfulness of them. Now, taking into account criminological theories, we can relate Maria's behavior to the strain theory because she lost her job and didn't have a stable house. So, situations that can be like stressors that derive in manic symptoms, illustrating how socioeconomic strain interacts with psychiatric vulnerability. Also, social disorganization theory. So, even though the case doesn't mention that Maria lived alone, her mental illness and the housing instability make us think that this was the case, bringing lack of social support, which can derive in isolation and relapse risk. These theories bring us closer to understanding the social or environmental influence on Maria's criminal behavior, coupled with the psychological situation addressed. The neurobiological aspects are glimpsed from a study that relates bipolar 1 disorders with them, as genetic predispositions, brain structure and function abnormalities, and neurotransmitter imbalance. So, this brings us to the knowledge of transdisciplinary as the correct way to study crime. Now, it is important also to know that some authors on psychopathy mentioned that some characteristics of it are manipulativeness, lack of empathy, and aggression. Maria's behavior is different to these characteristics, and this distinction is very important for judges and people who are involved in sentencing and treatment processes. Now, because psychopathy often receives rehabilitation, so it is important to understand that bipolar disorders respond to pharmacological and psychological interventions. Therefore, if we don't take into account the difference between psychosis and psychopathy, we have a risk to be punitive instead of therapeutic. Now, taking into account criminal responsibility, Bourbon Rodriguez emphasized that there is a tension between free will and mental illness in this liability. So, severe psychotic individuals may not know what they are doing, challenging traditional notions, okay, of what is called culpability. Now, Maria's claims of hearing a voice and her ceremonial framing of the fire indicate impaired autonomy. Now, prior involuntary psychiatric admissions further support chronic illness, reinforcing arguments for diminished responsibility. From a neurolaw perspective, this case exemplifies the need for nuanced assessment that integrate neuroscience, psychiatry, and legal standards. How can we take note of what the prosecutor argued that Maria's behavior was intentional and premeditated? To finish, there are important legal implications on Maria's case because it underscores systematic gaps in mental health care and social safety nets. Legal responses should prioritize insanity defense, strong basis if psychosis impair Maria's ability to appreciate wrongfulness, and risk management. High recidivism risk if untreated. Continuity of psychiatric care is essential. This also brings our attention in policy reform because there has to be an integration of mental health services with criminal justice to prevent similar incidents. As a conclusion, Maria's arson case illustrates a crime rooted in severe mental illness rather than psychopathy or antisocial personality disorders. There is an understanding that relates mental illness as a primary driver of certain criminal acts rather than rational choice. Now, criminological analysis suggests compromised intent warranting treatment focused interventions over punitive measures. This case highlights the urgent need for interdisciplinary approaches that balance public safety with humane treatment, as advocated in neuro law scholarships. Now, thanks for watching.